Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I apologize in advance for the echo that you're probably going to hear in this video. I just moved into my new apartment, so this room is empty along with every other room in the apartment, so my voice is probably going to be bouncing off the walls a lot, so just try to ignore it. I finally got around to reading a little bit more of this book that I mentioned in another video of mine. I'm sure it's one that you guys are familiar with, as it has been in the good graces of the bestseller list for many years now. It is Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. It is a Jungian analysis of the wild woman archetype. It's a collection of folklore, myths, stories from across the world in relation to this archetype, and exposes its vast qualities. So when I opened up this book, I'm the kind of person to kind of just flip to a chapter, especially if it's short stories or if the plot line isn't necessarily linear in a book. I will honestly just kind of open up to whatever page I want. And I, not so coincidentally, kind of intuitively opened up to this chapter. It's called Nosing Out the Facts, the Retrieval of Intuition as Initiation. The chapter, in this chapter, Clarissa kind of dissects this old Russian tale called Vasilisa the Wise. And after reading the first sentence of this chapter, I knew I was going to be doing a video about intuition. It's a subject that I've been brooding on for some time now. The first two sentences read quite beautifully. Intuition is the treasure of a woman's psyche. It's like a divining instrument and like a crystal through which one can see with uncanny interior vision. That it is. I would raise it to the likes of a superpower, honestly. Something characteristically feminine and unmistakably miraculous. It's a power that we often doubt within ourselves as women, as people, really. Everybody has intuition, but it is very distinctly feminine because it's not based on logic or reason. And that's exactly why it should be explored. To me, and to anybody that kind of reads about intuition, I would say that it surpasses societal structures. It's of a higher power that transcends paradigms, culture, and most importantly, time. It is the voice within us that has seen 1,000 millennia, peered into other lifetimes. Intuition does not need reason. Intuition just is. It just knows. It is nature itself. And we should take it way more seriously. I'm not going to go too in depth on the tale itself, but as a synopsis, Vasilisa the Wise is about a young girl and her doll passed down from her dying mother and their journey into the woods for fire. The doll directs Vasilisa through the dark woods and keeps her out of danger. The doll, as you can probably imagine, is a projection of the young girl's intuition. And the journey into the woods is the kind of initiation into trusting this intuition and letting it form fully. Trusting your intuition is definitely like walking into a dark wood, into an abyss. You walk blindly with doubt. But when you become receptive to this inner voice, when you tune in, you will see that that voice speaks loud and clear. Society has often told us not to trust our intuition because they see it as a kind of emotional or irrational response to something, obviously downplaying a feminine power that they don't really understand, because we don't structure our society on that. Society likes concrete, visible, solid things. However, you see it all the time in undertones of conversations with others, it being used to make decisions regularly. Men will call it instinct, and sadly, we're only applauded on our intuition when people feel they can interpret some kind of benefit from it. Although with intuition, the benefit that you'll get from it, where it leads you, isn't always immediately apparent. So if the benefit is outside of society's understanding, then they're going to deem intuition faulty. I believe intuition is only faulty when you are not literate in its archaic language, if you misinterpret what it says to you. Oftentimes we mistake fear for intuition, for example. We run in the complete opposite direction of where we should go for a few reasons. The most obvious being, of course, fear, because we're frightened. We run because society does not support self-realization or unusual, unexplainable circumstances. It does not support leading from within. We run because of darker forces, especially a kind of external society, or what Estes would call the superego, or the external family. Those things confuse us. That's all part of the journey, of course. We've all experienced this kind of self-sabotage before, I'm sure. But the voice is, if you choose to sit quietly just for a moment and be open and honest with yourself, it is a very distinct voice. Visually, you could equate it to blinking traffic lights. That voice is the voice of the old crone, the wise, decrepit old woman, or the wild woman, the wolf, the one in tune with nature, and its subdued directory. I would say the most common reason that we do not listen to our intuition is because we don't want to venture within. We do not want to feel the pain of growth, to work hard for the grand gifts that await at the end of an inward journey. We self-sabotage all the time out of laziness, or fear of what we will find, which that kind of fear is something that you should pursue. And if you don't, I'd say that that is the greatest disservice to yourself, to not listen to your intuition. And as a kind of cautionary tale, I'll tell you a short, very vague little story of my own, and how today, because of that, I actively sit and wait for that voice. I kind of try to tune into that frequency. This story's personal, so I'm going to keep it super vague, but like many of you, intuition was something that I could only hear from time to time. It wasn't very much an active component in me or in my life. And as I came to crossroads in my life, I was filled with self-denial. I was a real stubborn bitch. I felt that I could actually, with enough effort and determination, change my destiny, change what the universe had in store for me, kind of arrogantly force nature into submission. So I avoided the path I was supposed to go on for a long time, and I was kind of able to keep the tide at bay, so to speak. And that metaphor is eerily accurate, as we're kind of in this vein of Jungian psychoanalysis, because my dreams at this time, which I've had these dreams throughout my life, but especially during this time, they were more frequent. These dreams were just filled with tsunamis and tidal waves, just kind of violent, towering pillars of water and waves that were kind of threatening to drown me. And so towards the end of my situation, I had one particular dream. It was probably the most ridiculous, most surreal, and I actually, in the dream, I believe I died. I was in a wooden shack on the top of a kind of hill, and in front of me, this is how I say this is surreal, because it wasn't even an ocean. It was so strange. It was like partings in the sea, like pillars of water. And then in single file, each one of them just kept slamming into, the whole weight of the ocean just slamming into this shack. And it's me and a few other people in this shack barricading the door. And then once the, I don't even know, 6th or 7th one hit, it burst through the door and I drowned. It was pretty scary. And so for those of you who don't know, waves, tsunamis, anything dealing with the ocean and dreams is symbolic for the unconscious, for the unknown, and especially for repressed emotions and thoughts. So in simple terms, my dreams were telling me that my subconscious was threatening to break through, no matter how hard I fought against it. But as stubborn as I was, I still kept up the fucking charade. I wouldn't listen. So then the universe, or I guess my intuition and the world kind of conspired together to create a more aggressive tactic with me so that I would listen. The signals during the last month or so of this period of my life were so frequent and so painful for me that, I just had to eventually submit and give in. And the signals are they're subtle, but they're enough, they're sharp, targeted, I should say. It would be something as simple as me watching a certain type of movie or overhearing a conversation between people. And these things, I didn't go into them. I thought I was just living my normal life, and these things would pop up, these signals would pop up, and they would deeply, deeply disturb me. And I'd think about these instances for days at a time, or I would cry for hours, and it was just terrible. So I finally just had to listen to my intuition, a voice that had now kind of started screaming at me at this point because I was that stubborn. And that screaming was so loud. I could have been deaf and heard it. It became a kind of force majeure, so to speak. My feeble human body couldn't handle any of this. I kind of had to yield to it. And so as the events unfolded, albeit extremely traumatizing and horrible because I had denied it for so long, I could not be happier with the result. Now I listen. My lesson with intuition was a hard one because I kind of had drawn this out for so long. It got me into a lot of trouble and put me through a lot of pain, other people in pain, and I'll never drown that voice out again. Honestly, for fear of the consequences, because it's not pretty. Estes says in her book that intuition senses the directions to go in for most benefit. It could be going a different route on your walk home and seeing something that gives you one of those fine emotions. It could be turning down a date, no matter how alluring they are. It could be distancing yourself from a group of friends. And no matter the outcome, even if it fills you with uncertainty, if you're not quite sure what the journey means until later, that outcome will always lead you to a better place, to a better version of yourself. Intuition is a gift, a supernatural one at that. It is divine. It's the force that harnesses wisdom from all past lives, all the women and men who have lived and the lessons they have learned. If any of you guys are Avatar: The Last Airbender fans, if you'll please allow me to liken intuition to the Avatar state. It's a kind of state of insurmountable power fueled by wisdom, the wisdom and skill of past avatars, which are masters of elements. And if you're able to master it, to control it, or in this case, listen, you can tap into that at will. Instead of waiting and listening to your intuition, you can call out to that voice and ask for the answer yourself. That is one of my greatest goals as a woman, as a human being, looking to get the most out of life, to reach the highest level of individuation. I hope this video for you guys could be like the signs that I got when I most needed it, when I most needed to stop and listen. With this video, I hope to encourage you all to seek out that voice within yourself, to wait for her call. May we all go blindly, willingly into the dark. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, please leave me your comments below. Let me know what you think, what your stories have been with intuition, the lessons that you have learned. Please do not forget to like and subscribe as always, share this video, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.